Hey, Peggy, how are you? Hey, Jasmine. Happy Friday to you, too. Lovely, you haven't missed a thing. Hey, Queen, how are you? Lovely, I'm doing all right. Just, it, it's been one of those days where yeah. But I'm here. But I am here, and that's what matters. And so are you. Happy Friday, Casey. How are you? Well, tonight should be interesting. We're finishing up The Giver, which was, like I said, was all new to me. Jessica, you are right on time. Maybe even a little early. Live starts at 9. You're at 9:03. You're good. I haven't even started reading yet, so. Yes, indeed, Buford. Yes, indeed. And looking forward to starting the new audiobook hopefully tomorrow. I might stream a little bit of it. I'm not sure. I was given permission. So hope everybody had a good week. So on Sunday, I'll be starting a new book, and I'll tell you guys what it is a little later. If you want to take a guess, the main character is a little girl. Hello over there on the tubes. Yes, indeed, it is part 4. It is dark and mysterious, but it is a kid's book. Whoa, dude. Freezer died is crazy. Nope, not Hunger Games. The main character is a girl. She's young. It was made into a movie. The movie is not live action. Hello, Gam Gam. How are you? Well, Indigo, you are correct. It is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. Give another couple minutes here for people to filter in, and then we will get started. But yes, I'll be starting Coraline on Sunday. It is an excellent book. The movie is fantastic. It's stop motion. Well, I'm glad you're looking forward to it, Queen. Casey, well, I guess we'll find out. Do they? I want to say they were this. It's the same studio that did Kubo and the Two Strings, which is an absolutely stunning achievement in stop motion animation. Yeah, Kubo is one of those movies that I go back to at least once a year. It was just so well done, and it's a fantastic story. If you've never seen it, I cannot recommend it enough. Oh, Wildwood. Okay, I'll have to look that up. I love all the work that their stuff is so good. Over Hannibal's Mommy over on the tubes, I'll be starting Coraline by Neil Gaiman on Sunday. But tomorrow depends on how quickly I can get started and how the voices go and whatnot, because I gotta do the voices first. Just to kind of figure them out before I start recording everything. I may record a live recording session with the new audiobook that I'm working on. All right, one more minute and then we will get started. Well, I'm glad I could provide comfort while to put you to sleep. I take people telling me that I put them to sleep as a compliment. Well, Sunshine, I have all 4 of them. Hello, Nightshade. But I'll be reading other stuff first. Firestarter, I'm not sure. Depending on, I'd have to look and see what the length of the book is and whatnot. Jessica, no, I stream Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and tonight on Friday. So Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday are my days off, so to speak. So no, you did not miss anything. All right, well. All right, well, it is time we got started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Storytime with UndeadPapa. Tonight, we finish our journey through The Giver. Over the last 3 nights, Jonas has learned that the world he grew up trusting was built by giving things up. Color, choice, pain, memory, even love. But tonight, and in return, his community has given order, predictability, and safety. But tonight, Jonas learns the true cost of one more word he thought he understood. Release. And once he knows what it really means, there is no going back. So wherever you're listening from, dim the lights, sit back, and relax, because Storytime is about to begin. Tonight we conclude The Giver by Lois Lowry. Hey, Eddie, welcome in, brother. How are you doing? "19. Jonas glanced at the clock. There was so much work to be done, always, that he and the giver seldom simply sat and talked the way they just had. "I'm sorry that I wasted so much time with my questions," Jonas said. "I was only asking about release because my father is releasing a new child today. A twin. He has to select one and release the other one. They do it by weight." Jonas glanced at the clock. "Actually, I suppose he's already finished. I think it was this morning." The giver's face took on a solemn look. "I wish they wouldn't do that," he said quietly, almost to himself. "Well, they can't have 2 identical people around. Think how confusing it would be." Jonas chuckled. "I wish I could watch," he added, as an afterthought. He liked the thought of seeing his father perform the ceremony and making the little twin clean and comfy. His father was such a gentle man. "You can watch," the giver said. "No," Jonas told him. "They never let children watch. It's very private." "Jonas," the giver told him, "I know that you read your training instructions very carefully. Don't you remember that you are allowed to ask anyone anything?" Jonas nodded. "Yes, but—" "Jonas, when you and I have finished our time together, you will be the new receiver. You can read the books, you'll have the memories, you can have access to everything. It's part of your training. If you want to watch a release, you simply have to ask." Jonas shrugged. "Well, maybe I will then. But it's too late for this one. I'm sure it was this morning." The giver told him. The giver told him then something he had not known. All private ceremonies are recorded. They're in the Hall of Closed Records. Do you want to see this morning's release? Jonas hesitated. He was afraid that his father wouldn't like it if he watched something so private. "I think you should," the giver told him firmly. "All right, then," Jonas said. "Tell me how." The giver rose from his chair, went to the speaker on the wall, and clicked the switch from off to on. The voice spoke immediately. "Yes, receiver. How may I help you?" "I would like to see this morning's release of the twin." "One moment, receiver. Thank you for your instructions." Jonas watched the video screen above the row of switches. Its blank face began to flicker with zigzag lines. Then some numbers appeared, followed by the date and time. He was astonished and delighted that this was available to him, a surprise that he had not known. Suddenly he could see a small windowless room, empty except for a bed, a table with some equipment on it. Jonas recognized the scale. He had seen them before, when he had been doing volunteer hours at the nurturing center, and a cupboard. He could see pale carpeting on the floor. It's just an ordinary room, he commented. I thought maybe they'd have it in the auditorium so that everybody could come. All the old go to ceremonies of release, but I suppose that when it's just a newborn, they don't. Shh, the giver said. Excuse me. His eyes on the screen. Jonas's father, wearing his nurturing uniform, entered the room, cradling a tiny new child wrapped in a soft blanket in his arms. A uniformed woman followed through the door, carrying a second new child wrapped in a similar blanket. That's my father, Jonas found himself whispering, as if he might wake the little ones if he spoke aloud. And the other nurturer is his assistant. She's still in training, but she'll be finished soon. The two nurturers unwrapped the blankets and laid the identical twins on the bed. They were naked. Jonas could see that they were males. He watched, fascinated, as his father gently lifted one and then the other to the scale and weighed them. He heard his father laugh. Good, his father said to the woman. I thought for a moment they might both be exactly the same, and we'd have a problem, but this one, he handed one after rewrapping it to his assistant, is 6 pounds even, so you can clean him up and dress him and take him over to the center. The woman took the new child and left through the door she had entered. Jonas watched as his father bent over the squirming new child on the bed. You, little guy, you're only 5 pounds 10 ounces. A shrimp. That's the special voice he uses with Gabriel, Jonas remarked, smiling. Watch, the giver said. Now he cleans him up and makes him comfy, Jonas told him. He told me. Be quiet, Jonas, the giver commanded in a strange voice. Watch. Obediently, Jonas concentrated on the screen, waiting for what would happen next. He was especially curious about the ceremony part. His father turned and opened the cupboard. He took out a syringe and a small bottle. Very carefully, he inserted the needle into the bottle and began to fill the syringe with clear liquid. Jonas winced sympathetically. He had forgotten that new children had to get shots. He hated shots himself, though he knew that they were necessary. To his surprise, his father began carefully to direct the needle to the top of the new child's forehead, puncturing the place where the fragile skin pulsed. The newborn squirmed and wailed faintly. Why is he... Shh, the giver said sharply. His father was talking, and Jonas realized that he was hearing the answer to the question he had started to ask. Still, in the special voice, his father was saying, I know, it hurts, little guy, but I have to use a vein, and the teeny veins in your arm are still too teeny-weeny. He pushed the plunger slowly, injecting the liquid into the scalp vein until the syringe was empty. All done. That wasn't so bad, was it? Jonas heard his father say cheerfully. He turned aside and dropped the syringe into a waste receptacle. Now he cleans him up, makes him comfy, Jonas said to himself, aware that the giver didn't want to talk during the little ceremony. As he continued to watch, the new child, no longer crying, moved his arms and legs in a jerking motion. Then he went limp. His head fell to the side, his eyes half open. Then he was still. With an odd, shocked feeling, Jonas recognized the gestures and postures and expression. They were familiar. He'd seen them before, but he couldn't remember where. Jonas stared at the screen, waiting for something to happen, but nothing did. The little twin lay motionless. His father was putting things away, folding the blanket, closing the cupboard. Once again, as he had on the playing field, he felt a choking sensation. Once again, he saw the face of the light-haired, bloodied soldier, and his life left his eyes. The memory came back. He killed it. My father killed it, Jonas said to himself, stunned at what he was realizing. He continued to stare at the screen numbly. His father tidied the room, then he picked up a small carton that lay waiting on the floor, set it on the bed, and lifted the limp body into it. He placed the lid on tightly, picked up the carton, and carried it to the other side of the room. He opened a small door in the wall. Jonas could see the darkness behind the door. It seemed to be some sort of chute in which trash was deposited at school. His father loaded the carton containing the body into the chute and gave it a shove. "Bye-bye, little guy," Jonas heard his father say before he left the room. Then the screen went blank. Well, damn. The giver turned to him. Quite calmly, he related, "When the speaker notified me that Rosemary had applied for release, they turned on the tape to show me the process. And there she was, my last glimpse of that beautiful child waiting. They brought in the syringe and asked her to roll up her sleeve. You suggested, Jonas, that perhaps she wasn't brave enough. I don't know what bravery is. I don't know about bravery, what it is, what it means. I do know that I sat there numb with horror, wretched with helplessness, as I listened as Rosemary told him that she would prefer to inject herself. Then she did so. I didn't watch. I looked away." The giver turned to him. "Well, there you are, Jonas. You were wondering about release," he said in a bitter voice. Jonas felt a ripping sensation inside him, the feeling of terrible pain clawing its way forward to emerge in a cry. Oh, that's a tough one. 20. I won't go home. You can't make me," Jonas sobbed and shouted and pounded the bed with his fists. "Sit up, Jonas," the giver told him firmly. Jonas obeyed him. Weeping, shuddering, he sat on the edge of the bed. He would not look at the giver. "You may stay here tonight. I want to talk to you, but you must be quiet now while I notify your family unit. No one must hear you cry." Jonas looked up wildly. "No one heard that little twin cry either. No one but my father." He collapsed in sobs again. The giver waited silently. Finally, Jonas was able to quiet himself and he sat, huddled, his shoulders shaking. The giver went to the wall speaker and clicked the switch on. "Yes, receiver, how may I help you?" "Notify the new receiver's family unit that he will be staying with me tonight for additional training." "I will take care of that, sir. Thank you for your instructions," the voice said. "I will take care of that, sir. I will take care of that, sir," Jonas mimicked in a cruel, sarcastic voice. "I will do whatever you like, sir. I will kill people, sir. Old people, small newborn people. I'll be happy to kill them, sir. Thank you for your instructions, sir. How may I help you?" He couldn't seem to stop. The giver grasped his shoulders firmly. Jonas fell silent and stared at him. "Listen to me, Jonas. They can't help it. They know nothing." "You said that to me once before." "I said it because it's true. It's the way they live. It's the life that was created for them. It's the same life that you would have if you had not been chosen as my successor." "But he lied to me," Jonas wept. "It's what he was told to do, and he knows nothing else. What about you? Do you lie to me too? Jonas almost spat the question at the giver. I am empowered to lie, but I have never lied to you. Jonas stared at him. Release is always like that? For people who break the rules 3 times? For the old? They kill the old too? Yes, it's true. And what about Fiona? She loves the old. She's in training to care for them. Does she know yet? What will she do when she finds out? How will she feel? Jonas brushed wetness from his face with the back of his hand. Fiona is already being trained in the fine art of release, the giver told him. She's very efficient at her work. Your red-haired friend, feelings are not part of the life she's learned. Jonas wrapped his arms around himself and rocked his own body back and forth. What should I do? I can't go back. I can't. The giver stood up. First, I will order our evening meal. Then we will eat. Jonas found himself using the nasty, sarcastic voice again. Then we'll have a share of feelings. The giver gave a rueful, jeez Louise. The giver gave a rueful, anguished, empty laugh. Jonas, you and I are the only ones who have feelings. We've been sharing them now for almost a year. I'm sorry, giver, Jonas said miserably. I don't mean to be so hateful, not to you. The giver rubbed Jonas's hunched shoulders. And after we eat, he went on, we'll make a plan. Jonas looked up, puzzled. Plan for what? There's nothing we can do. It's always been this way. Before me, before you, before the ones who came before you, back and back and back. His voice trailed the familiar phrase. Jonas, the giver said after a moment, it's true that it has been this way for what seems forever. But the memories tell us that it has not always been. People felt things once. You and I have been part of that, so we know. We know that they once felt things like pride and sorrow and love, Jonas added, remembering the family scene that had so affected him. And pain, he thought again of the soldier. The worst part of holding the memories is not the pain. It's the loneliness of it. Memories need to be shared. I've started to share them with you, Jonas said, trying to cheer him. That's true. And having you here with me over the past year has made me realize that things must change. For years, I've felt that they should, but it seems so hopeless. Now, for the first time, I think there might be a way, the giver said slowly. And you brought it to my attention, barely. He glanced at the clock. 2 hours ago. Jonas watched him and listened. It was late at night now. They had talked and talked. Jonas sat wrapped in a robe belonging to the giver, the wrong robe that only elders wore. It was possible what they had planned, barely possible. If it failed, they would very likely be killed. But what did that matter? If he stayed, his life was no longer worth living. Yes, he told the giver. I'll do it. I think I can do it. I'll try anyway, but I want you to come with me. The giver shook his head. Jonas, he said, the community has depended all these generations back and back and back on a resident receiver to hold their memories for them. I've turned over many of them to you in the past year, and I can't take them back. There's no way for me to get them back if I have given them. So if you escape, once you are gone, and Jonas, You know that you can never return." Jonas nodded solemnly. It was the terrifying part. "Yes," he said. "I know, but if you come with me—" The giver shook his head and made a gesture to silence him. He continued, "If you get away, if you get beyond, if you get to elsewhere, it will mean that the community has to bear the burden themselves of the memories you had been holding for them. I think that they can, and that they will acquire some wisdom, but it will be desperately hard for them. When we lost Rosemary 10 years ago and her memories returned to the people, they panicked. And those were such few memories compared to yours. When your memories return, they will need help. Remember how I helped you in the beginning, and when the receiving of memories was new to you." Jonas nodded. "It was scary at first, and it hurt a lot." "You needed me then, and now they will." "It's no use. They'll find someone to take my place. They'll choose a new receiver." "There's no one ready for training. Not right away. Oh, they'll speed up the selection, of course, but I can't think of another child who has the right qualities." "There's a little female with pale eyes, but she's only 6. "That's correct. I know the one you mean. Her name is Catherine, but she's too young, so they will be forced to bear those memories." "I want you to come, Giver," Jonas pleaded. "No. If I stay here, I have to stay here. I want to, Jonas. If I go with you, and together we take away all their protection from the memories, Jonas, the community will be left with no one to help them. They will be thrown into chaos. They'll destroy themselves. I can't go." "Giver," Jonas suggested, "you and I don't need to care about the rest of them." The giver looked at him with a questioning smile. Jonas hung his head. Of course they needed to care. It was the meaning of everything. "And in any case," the giver sighed, "I wouldn't make it. I'm very weakened now. Do you know that I no longer see colors?" Jonas's heart broke. He reached for the giver's hand. "You have the colors," the giver told him, "and you have the courage. I will help you to have strength." "A year ago," Jonas reminded him, "when I had just become 12, when I began to see the first color, you told me that the beginning had been different for you, but that I wouldn't understand." The giver brightened. "That's true. And do you know, Jonas, that with all your knowledge now, with all your memories, with all you've learned, still you won't understand, because I've been a little selfish. I haven't given any of it to you. I wanted to keep it for myself to the last." "Keep what?" When I was just a boy, younger than you, it began to come to me. But it wasn't the seeing beyond for me. It was different. For me, it was hearing beyond." Jonas frowned, trying to figure that out. "What do you hear?" he asked. "Music," the giver said, smiling. "I began to hear something truly remarkable. It is called music. I'll give you some before I go." Jonas shook his head emphatically. "No, Giver," he said. "I want you to keep that, to have with you when I'm gone." Jonas went home the next morning, cheerfully greeted his parents, and lied easily about what a busy, pleasant night he had had. His father smiled and lied easily, too, about his busy and pleasant day the day before. Throughout the school day, as he did his lessons, Jonas went over the plan in his head. It seemed startlingly simple. Jonas and the Giver had gone over it and over it late into the night hours. For the next 2 weeks, as the time for the December ceremony approached, the Giver would transfer every memory of courage and strength that he could to Jonas. He would need those to help him find the elsewhere that they were both sure existed. They knew it would be a very difficult journey. Then, in the middle of the night before the ceremony, Jonas would secretly leave his dwelling. This was probably the most dangerous part, because it was a violation of a major rule for any citizen not on official business to leave a dwelling at night. "I'll leave at midnight," Jonas said. "The food collectors will be finishing picking up the evening meal remains by then, and the path maintenance crews don't start their work that early. So there won't be anyone to see me unless, of course, someone is out on emergency business." "I don't know what you should do if you are seen, Jonas," the Giver had said. "I have memories, of course, all kinds of escapes, people fleeing from terrible things throughout history. But every situation is individual. There is no memory of one like this." "I'll be careful," Jonas said. "No one will see me." "As receiver in training, you're held in very high respect already, so I think you wouldn't be questioned very forcefully." "I'd just say I was on some important errand for the receiver. I'd say that it was your fault that I was out after hours," Jonas teased. They both laughed a little nervously, but Jonas was certain that he could slip away unseen from his house carrying an extra set of clothing. Silently he would take his bicycle to the riverbank and leave it there, hidden in bushes with the clothing folded beside it. Then he would make his way through the darkness on foot silently to the annex. "There's no nighttime attendant," the Giver explained. "I'll leave the door unlocked. You simply slip into the room. I'll be waiting for you." Yes, it has, Jasmine. It has gotten heavy. His parents would discover when they woke that he was gone. They would also find a cheerful note from Jonas on his bed telling them that he was going for an early morning ride along the river, that he would be back for the ceremony. His parents would be irritated but not alarmed. They would think him inconsiderate, and they would plan to chastise him later. They would wait, with mounting anger for him. Finally, they would be forced to go, taking Lily to the ceremony without him. "They won't say anything to anyone, though," Jonas said, quite certain. "They won't call attention to my rudeness because it would reflect on their parenting. And anyway, everyone is so involved in the ceremony that they probably won't notice that I'm not there. Now that I'm a 12 and in training, I don't have to sit with my age group anymore. So Asher will think I'm with my parents, or do you? And your parents will assume you're with Asher or with me." Jonas shrugged. "It will take everyone a while to realize that I'm not there at all. And you and I will be long on our way by then." In the early morning, the Giver would order a vehicle and driver from the speaker. He visited the other communities frequently, meeting with their elders. His responsibilities extended over all the surrounding areas, so this would not be an unusual undertaking. Ordinarily, the Giver did not attend the December ceremony. Last year he had been present because of the occasion of Jonas's selection, in which he was so involved. But his life was usually quite separate from that of the community. No one would comment on his absence or on the fact that he had chosen this day to be away. When the driver and vehicle arrived, the Giver would send the driver on some sort of brief errand. During his absence, the Giver would help Jonas hide in the storage area of the vehicle. He would have him have with him a bundle of food which the giver would save from his own meals during the next 2 weeks. The ceremony would begin with all the community there, and by then Jonas and the giver would be on their way. By midday, Jonas's absence would become apparent and would be a cause for serious concern. The ceremony would not be disrupted. Such a disruption would be unthinkable. But searchers would be sent out into the community. By the time his bicycle and clothing were found, the giver would be returning. Jonas, by then, would be on his own, making his journey elsewhere. The giver, on his return, would find the community in a state of confusion and panic, confronted by a situation which they had never faced before, and having no memories from which to find either solace or wisdom. They would not know what to do and would seek his advice. He would go to the auditorium where the people would be gathered. He would stride to the stage and command their attention. He would make the solemn announcement that Jonas had been lost in the river. He would immediately begin the ceremony of loss. "Jonas, Jonas," they would say loudly, as they had once said the name of Caleb. The giver would lead the chant. Together they would let Jonas's presence in their lives fade away as they said his name in unison, more slowly, softer and softer, until he was disappearing from them, until he was no more than an occasional murmur, and then, by the end of the long day, gone forever, not to be mentioned again. Their attention would turn to the overwhelming task of bearing the memories themselves. The giver would help them. "Yes, I understand that they'll need you," Jonas said at the end of the lengthy discussion and planning. "But I'll need you too. Please come with me." He knew the answer even as he made the final plea. "My work will be finished," the giver had replied gently, "when I have helped the community to change and become whole." "I'm grateful to you, Jonas, because without you I would never have figured out a way to bring the change. But your role is now to escape, and my role is to stay." "But don't you want to be with me, giver?" Jonas asked sadly. The giver hugged him. "I love you, Jonas," he said, "but I have another place to go. When my work here is finished, I want to be with my daughter." Jonas had been staring glumly at the floor. Now he looked up, startled. "I didn't know you had a daughter, giver. You told me that you had a spouse, but I never knew about your daughter." The giver smiled and nodded. For the first time in their long months together, Jonas saw him look truly happy. "Her name was Rosemary," the giver said. "Oh, hey, Rita. Hey, Colleen. How are you?" "Hey, Wings. I didn't even see you sneak in." All right. So how are we enjoying it so far? Are we looking forward to the ending, or are we in fear of the ending? I'm kind of torn between the two here. Ooh. I'm not tired, I swear. Oh, it got dark right at the very, very beginning. But yeah, a lot of people seem to love this book. I honestly had not heard of it until 4 or 5 months ago when somebody actually mentioned it, and I went and looked it up. So, but I actually do not even know the ending. This is a cold read for me, so we will see. We will see. Going to want to read the others. Yeah, that's what I hear. That's what I hear. Oh, wow. Fourth grade? All right. That's crazy. Huh. Wow. That seems a little young for this book. Okay, no spoilers. No spoilers. Well, if that in that case, I will keep reading. 21. It would work. They could make it work. Jonas told himself again and again throughout the day. But that evening, everything changed. All of it. All the things they thought through so meticulously fell apart. That night, Jonas was forced to flee. He left the dwelling shortly after the sky became dark and the community still. It was terribly dangerous because some of the work crews were still about, but he moved stealthily and silently, staying in the shadows, making his way past the darkened dwellings and the empty central plaza toward the river. Beyond the plaza he could see the house of the old, with the annex behind it, outlined against the night sky. But he could not stop there. There was no time. Every minute counted now. Every minute must take him farther from the community. Now he was on the bridge, hunched over on the bicycle, pedaling steadily. He could see the dark churning water far below. He felt, surprisingly, no fear nor any regret at leaving the community behind, but he felt a very deep sadness that he had left his closest friend behind. He knew that in the danger of his escape he must be absolutely silent. But with his heart and mind he called back and hoped that with his capacity for hearing beyond, the giver would know that Jonas had said goodbye. It had happened at the evening meal. The family unit was eating together as always, Lily chattering away, mother and father making their customary comments and lies Jonas knew about the day. Nearby, Gabriel played happily on the floor, babbling his baby talk, looking with glee now and then towards Jonas, obviously delighted to have him back after the unexpected night away from the dwelling. Father glanced down toward the toddler. "Enjoy it, little guy," he said. "This is your last night as a visitor." "What do you mean?" Jonas asked him. Father sighed with disappointment. "Well, you know he wasn't here when you got home this morning because we had him stay overnight at the nursing center. Or nurturing center, I should say. Yeah. It seemed like a good opportunity with you gone to give it a try. He's been sleeping so soundly." "Didn't it go well?" Mother asked sympathetically. Father gave a rueful laugh. "That's an understatement. It was a disaster. He cried all night, apparently. The night crew couldn't handle it. They were really frazzled by the time I got to work." "Gabe, you naughty thing," Lily said with a scolding little cluck toward the grinning toddler on the floor. "So," Father went on, "we obviously had to make the decision. Even I voted for Gabriel's release when we had the meeting this afternoon." Jonas put down his fork and stared at his father. "Release?" he asked. Father nodded. "We certainly gave it our best try, didn't we?" "Yes, we did," Mother agreed emphatically. Lily nodded in agreement, too. Jonas worked at keeping his voice absolutely calm. "When?" he asked. "When will he be released?" "First thing tomorrow morning. We have to start our preparations for the naming ceremony, so we thought we'd get this taken care of right away." "It's bye-bye to you, Gabe, in the morning," Father said in his sweet, sing-song voice. Jonas reached the opposite side of the river, stopped briefly, and then looked back. The community where his entire life had been lived lay behind him now, sleeping. At dawn, the orderly, disciplined life he had always known would continue again without him. The life where nothing was ever expected or inconvenient or unusual, the life without color, pain, or past. He pushed firmly again at the pedal with his foot and continued riding along the road. It was not safe to spend time looking back. He thought of the rules he had broken so far, enough that if he were caught, now he would be condemned. First, he had left the dwelling at night, a major transgression. Second, he had robbed the community of food, a very serious crime, even though what he had taken was leftovers set out on the dwelling store steps for collection. Third, he had stolen his father's bicycle. He had hesitated for a moment, standing beside the bike port in the darkness, not wanting anything of his father's and uncertain as well whether he could comfortably ride the larger bike when he was so accustomed to his own. But it was necessary because it had the child seat attached to the back. And he had taken Gabriel, too. He could feel the little head nudge his back, bouncing gently against him as he rode. Gabriel was sleeping soundly, strapped into the seat. Before he had left the dwelling, he had laid his hands firmly on Gabe's back and transmitted to him the most soothing memory he could. A slow, swinging hammock under palm trees on an island someplace, an evening with a rhythmic sound of languid water lapping hypnotically against the beach nearby. As the memory seeped from him into the new child, he could feel Gabe's sleep ease and deepen. There had been no stir at all when Jonas lifted him from the crib and placed him gently into the molded seat. He knew that he had the remaining hours of the night before they would be aware of his escape, so he rode hard, steadily, willing himself not to tire as the minutes and miles passed. There had been no time to receive the memories he and the giver had counted on, of strength and courage. So he relied on what he had and hoped it would be enough. He circled the outlying communities, their dwellings dark. Gradually, the distances between communities widened with longer stretches of empty road. His legs ached at first. Then, as time passed, they became numb. At dawn, Gabriel began to stir. They were in an isolated place. Fields on either side of the road were dotted with thickets of trees here and there. He saw a stream and made his way to it across a rutted, bumpy meadow. Gabriel, wide awake now, giggled as the bicycle jolted him up and down. Jonas unstrapped Gabe, lifted him from the bike, and watched him investigate the grass and twigs with delight. Carefully, he hid the bicycle in thick bushes. "Morning meal, Gabe." He unwrapped some of the food and fed them both. Then he filled the cup he had brought with water from the stream and held it for Gabriel to drink. He drank thirstily to himself and sat by the stream, watching the new child play. He was exhausted. He knew he must sleep, resting his own muscles and preparing himself for more hours on the bicycle. It would not be safe to travel in daylight. They would be looking for him soon. He found a place deeply hidden in the trees, took the new child there, and lay down, holding Gabriel in his arms. Gabe struggled cheerfully as if it were a wrestling game, the kind they had played back in the dwelling with tickles and laughter. "Sorry, Gabe," Jonas told him. "I know it's morning, and I know you just woke up, but we have to sleep now." He cuddled the small body close to him and rubbed the little back. He murmured to Gabriel soothingly, then pressed his hands firmly and transmitted a memory of deep, contented exhaustion. Gabriel's head nodded. after a moment and fell against Jonas's chest. Together the fugitives slept through the first dangerous day. The most terrifying thing was the plains. By now days had passed. Jonas no longer knew how many. The journey had become automatic, the sleep by days hidden in the underbrush and trees, the finding of water, the careful division of scraps of food, augmented by what he could find in the fields, and the endless miles on the bicycle by night. His leg muscles were taut now. They ached when he settled himself to sleep, but they were stronger, and he stopped now less often to rest. Sometimes he paused and lifted Gabriel down for a brief bit of exercise, running down the road or through a field together in the dark. But always, when he returned, strapped the uncomplaining toddler into the seat again and remounted. His legs were ready. So he had enough strength of his own, and had not needed what the giver might have provided, had there been time. But when the plains came, he wished that he could have received the courage. He knew they were search planes. They flew so low that they woke him with the noise of their engines, and sometimes looking out and up fearfully from the hiding places, he could almost see the faces of the searchers. He knew that they could not see color, and that their flesh, as well as Gabriel's light golden curls, would be no more than smears of gray against the colorless foliage. But he remembered from his science and technology studies at school that the search planes used heat-seeking devices which could identify body warmth and would hone in on two humans huddled in shrubbery. So always, when he heard the aircraft sound, he reached to Gabriel and transmitted memories of snow, keeping some for himself. Together they became cold, and when the planes were gone, they would shiver, holding each other, until sleep came again. Sometimes urging the memories into Gabriel, Jonas felt that they were that they were more shallow, a little weaker than they had been. It was what he had hoped. And when he and the giver had planned that as he moved away from the community, he would shed the memories and leave them behind for the people. But now, when he needed them, when the planes came, he tried hard to cling to what he still had of cold and to use it for their survival. Usually the aircraft came by day when they were hiding. But he was alert at night, too, on the road, always listening intently for the sound of the engines. Even Gabriel listened and would call out, "Plane! Plane!" sometimes before Jonas had heard the terrifying noise. When the aircraft searchers came, as they did occasionally during the night as they rode, Jonas sped to the nearest tree or bush, dropped to the ground, and made himself and Gabriel cold. But it was sometimes a frighteningly close call. As he pedaled through the nights, through isolated landscape now, with communities far behind and no sign of human habitation around him or ahead, he was constantly vigilant, looking for the next nearest hiding place should the sounds of engines come. But the frequency of the planes diminished. They came less often and flew, when they did come, less slowly, as if the search had become haphazard and no longer helpful. Finally, there was an entire day and night when they did not come at all. "22. Now the landscape was changing. It was a subtle change, hard to identify at first. The road was narrower and bumpy, apparently no longer tended by road crews. It was harder, suddenly, to balance on the bike as the front wheel wobbled over stones and ruts. One night Jonas fell when the bike jolted to a sudden stop against a rock. He grabbed instinctively for Gabriel, and the new child strapped tightly in his seat was uninjured, only frightened when the bike fell to its side. But Jonas's ankle was twisted, and his knees were scraped and raw blood seeping through his torn trousers. Painfully, he righted himself and the bike and reassured Gabe. Tentatively, he began to ride in daylight. He had forgotten the fear of the searchers who seemed to have diminished into the past. But now there were new fears. The unfamiliar landscape held hidden, unknown perils. Trees became more numerous, and the forests beside the road were dark and thick with mystery. They saw streams more frequently now, and stopped often to drink. Jonas carefully washed his injured knees, wincing as he rubbed the raw flesh. The constant ache of his swollen ankle was eased when he soaked it occasionally in the cold water that rushed through the roadside gullies. He was newly aware that Gabriel's safety depended entirely upon his own continued strength. They saw their first waterfall, and for the first time, wildlife. "Plane! Plane!" Gabriel called, and Jonas turned swiftly into the trees, though he had not seen planes in days, and he did not hear an aircraft engine right now. When he stopped the bicycle in the shrubbery and turned to Gabe, he saw the small, chubby arm pointing toward the sky. Terrified, he looked up. But it was not a plane at all. Though he had never seen one before, he identified it from his fading memories. For the Giver had given them to him often. It was a bird. Soon there were many birds along the way, soaring overhead, calling. They saw deer, and once beside the road, looking at them, curious and unafraid, a small reddish-brown creature with a thick tail whose name Jonas did not know. He slowed the bike, and they stared at one another until the creature turned away and disappeared into the woods. All of it was new to him. After a life of sameness and predictability, he was awed by the surprises that lay beyond each curve of the road. He slowed the bike again and again to look with wonder at wildflowers, to enjoy the throaty warble of a new bird nearby, or merely to watch the way the wind shifted the leaves in the trees. During his 12 years in the community, he had never felt such simple moments of exquisite happiness. But there were desperate fears building in him now as well. The most relentless of his fears was that they would starve. Now that they had left the cultivated fields behind them, it was almost impossible to find food. They finished the meager store of potatoes and carrots they had saved from the last agricultural area, and now they were always hungry. Jonas knelt by a stream and tried without success to catch a fish with his hands. Frustrated, he threw rocks into the water, knowing even if he did so, it was useless. Finally, in desperation, he fashioned a makeshift net, looping the strands of Gabriel's blanket around a curved stick. After countless tries, the net yielded 2 flopping silvery fish. Methodically, Jonas hacked them into pieces with a sharp rock and fed the raw shreds to himself and to Gabriel. They ate some berries and tried without success to catch a bird. At night, while Gabriel slept beside him, Jonas lay awake, tortured by hunger, and he remembered his life in the community where meals were delivered on each dwelling every day. Oh, thank you. He tried to use the flagging power of his memory to recreate meals and manage brief, tantalizing fragments, banquets with huge roasted meats, birthday parties with thick, frosted cakes, and lush fruits picked and eaten, sun-warmed and dripping from the trees. But when the memory glimpses subsided, he was left with the gnawing, painful emptiness. Jonas remembered suddenly and grimly the time in his childhood when he had been chastised for misusing a word. The word had been starving. "You have never been starving," he had been told. "You never will be starving." Now he was. If he had stayed in the community, he would not be. It was as simple as that. Once he had yearned for choice. Then, when he had had a choice, he had made the wrong one, the choice to leave, and now he was starving. But if he had stayed, his thoughts continued. If he had stayed, he would have starved in other ways. He would have lived a life hungry for feelings, for color, for love. And for Gabriel, there would have been no life at all. So there had not really been a choice. It became a struggle to ride the bicycle as Jonas weakened from lack of food and realized at the same time that he was encountering something he had for a long time yearned to see. Hills. His sprained ankle throbbed as he forced the pedal downward in an effort that was almost beyond him. The weather was changing. It rained for 2 days. Jonas had never seen rain, though he had experienced it often in the memories. He had liked those rains, enjoying the new feeling of it, but this was different. He and Gabriel became cold and wet, and it was hard to get dry, even when sunshine occasionally followed. Gabriel had not cried during the long, frightening journey. Now he did. He cried because he was hungry and cold and terribly weak. Jonas cried too, for the same reasons, and another reason as well. He wept because he was afraid now that he could not save Gabriel. He no longer cared about himself. Well, thank you, guys. I really appreciate that. Oh, a little after 10. We're going to have some extra time tonight. Blanket and popcorn. That's you're not the first person to say that. That's for sure. 23. Jonas felt more and more certain that the destination lay ahead of them, very near now in the night that was approaching. None of his senses confirmed it. He saw nothing ahead except the endless ribbon of road unfolding in twisting narrow curves. He heard no sound ahead. Yet he felt it. He felt that elsewhere was not far away. But he had little hope left that he would be able to reach it. His hope diminished further when the sharp, cold air began to blur and thicken with swirling white. Gabriel, wrapped in his inadequate blanket, was hunched, shivering and silent in his little seat. Jonas stopped the bike wearily, lifted the child down, and realized with heartbreak how cold and weak Gabe had become. Standing on the freezing mound that was thickening around his numb feet, Jonas opened his own tunic, held Gabriel to his bare chest, and dried the torn and dirty blanket around both of them. Gabriel moved feebly against him and whimpered briefly into the silence that surrounded him. Dimly, from a nearly forgotten perception as blurred as substance itself, Jonas recalled what the whiteness was. "It's called snow, Gabe," Jonas whispered. "Snowflakes. They fall down from the sky, and they're very beautiful." There was no response from the child who had once been so curious and alert. Jonas looked down through the dusk at the little head against his chest. Gabriel's curly hair was matted and filthy, and there were tear stains outlined in dirt on his pale cheeks. His eyes were closed. As Jonas watched, a snowflake drifted down and was caught briefly for a moment's sparkle in the tiny, fluttering eyelashes. Wearily, he remounted the bicycle. A steep hill loomed ahead. In the best of conditions, the hill would have been a difficult, demanding ride, but now the rapidly deepening snow obscured the narrow road and made the ride impossible. His front wheel moved forward imperceptibly as he pushed on the pedals with his numb, exhausted legs. But the bicycle stopped. It would not move. He got off and let it drop sideways into the snow. For a moment, he thought how easy it would be to drop beside it himself, to let himself and Gabriel slide into the softness of the snow, the darkness of the night, the warm comfort of sleep. But he had come this far. He must try to go on. The memories had fallen behind him now, escaping from his protection to return to the people of his community. Were there any left at all? Could he hold on to a last bit of warmth? Did he still have the strength to give? Could Gabriel still receive? He pressed his hands into Gabriel's back and tried to remember sunshine. For a moment he seemed that nothing came to him, that his power was completely gone. Then it flickered suddenly, and he felt tiny tongues of heat begin to creep across and into his frozen feet and legs. He felt his face begin to glow and the tense, cold skin of his arms and hands relax. For a fleeting second he felt that he wanted to keep it for himself, to let himself bathe in sunlight, unburdened by anything or anyone else. But the moment passed and was followed by an urge, a need, a passionate yearning to share the warmth with the one person left for him to love. Aching from the effort, he forced the memory of warmth into the thin, shivering body in his arms. Gabriel stirred. For a moment they both were bathed in warmth and renewed strength as they stood, hugging each other in the blinding snow. Jonas began to walk up the hill. The memory was agonizingly brief. He had trudged no more than a few yards through the night when it was gone and they were cold again. But his mind was alert now. Warming himself ever so briefly had shaken away the lethargy and resignation and restored his will to survive. He began to walk faster on feet that he could no longer feel, but the hill was treacherously steep. He was impeded by the snow and by his own lack of strength. He didn't make it very far before he stumbled and fell forward. On his knees, unable to rise, Jonas tried a second time. His consciousness grasped at a whisper of another warm memory, and he tried desperately to hold it there, to enlarge it and pass it into Gabriel. His spirits and strength lifted with the momentary warmth, and he stood. Again, Gabriel stirred against him as he began to climb, but the memory faded, leaving him colder than before. If only he had had time to receive more warmth from the giver before he escaped. Maybe there would be more left for him now, but there was no purpose in if-onlys. His entire concentration now had to be on moving his feet, warming Gabriel and himself, and going forward. He climbed, stopped, and warmed them both briefly again, with a tiny scrap of memory that seemed certainly to be all he had left. The top of the hill seemed so far away, and he did not know what lay beyond. But there was nothing left to do but continue. He trudged upward. As he approached the summit of the hill, at last something began to happen. He was not warmer. If anything, he felt more numb and more cold. He was not less exhausted. On the contrary, his steps were leaden, and he could barely move his freezing, tired legs. He began suddenly to feel happy. He began to recall happy times. He remembered his parents and his sister. He remembered his friends, Asher and Fiona. He remembered the giver. Well, Hazmat, that's what it's there for. Hey, Songbird, how are you? Memories of joy flooded through him suddenly. He reached the place where the hill crested, and he could feel the ground under his snow-covered feet become level. It would not be uphill anymore. "We're almost there, Gabriel," he whispered, feeling quite certain without knowing why. "I remember this place, Gabe." And it was true. But he was not grasping. It was not a grasping of thin and burdensome recollection. This was different. This was something that he could keep. It was a memory of his own. He hugged Gabriel and rubbed him briskly, warming him to keep him alive. The wind was bitterly cold. The snow swirled, blurring his vision. But somewhere ahead, through the blinding storm, he knew there was warmth and light. Using his final strength and a special knowledge that was deep inside him, Jonas found the sled that was waiting for them at the top of the hill. Numbly, his hands fumbled for the rope. He settled himself on the sled and hugged Gabe close. The hill was steep, but the snow was powdery and soft, and he knew that this time there would be no ice, no fall, no pain. Inside his freezing body, his heart surged with hope. They started down. Jonas felt himself losing consciousness, and with his whole being willed himself to stay upright atop the sled, clutching Gabriel, keeping him safe. The runners sliced through the snow, and the wind whipped at his face as they sped in a straight line through an incision that seemed to lead to the final destination, the place where he had always felt was waiting, the elsewhere that held their future and their past. He forced his eyes open as they went downward, sliding, and all at once he could see lights. And he recognized them now. He knew they were shining through the windows of rooms, that they were red. They were the red, blue, and yellow lights that twinkled from trees in places where families created and kept memories, where they celebrated love. Downward, faster and faster. Suddenly he was aware with certainty and joy that below, ahead, they were waiting for him. That they were waiting, too, for the baby. For the first time, he heard something he knew to be music. He heard people singing. Behind him, across vast distances of space and time, from the place he had left, he thought he heard music, too. But perhaps it was only an echo. And that is the end of The Giver. So that's where I'll leave our story tonight, at the top of a hill with Jonas and Gabriel moving towards lights in the distance and the sound of music. For 4 nights, we watched Jonas discover a world that was larger than the one he had been given. A world with color, with pain, with choice, with memory, and with love. And in the end, he chooses all of it. Not because it was safe, not because it is easy, but because a life without pain can also become a life without meaning. Lois Lowry leaves us with lights ahead, music in the distance, and one last question: whether Jonas has found elsewhere or simply found hope. There are 3 other books, I believe, in this series. I will probably be reading them at some point. now that we finish this one, but not next. Thank you. Yeah, I do. I do. You're right, Indigo. I do like the ambiguity of the ending. It was definitely definitely the right way to go. I'll eventually get to them. I've got other books I got to read first, though. Yeah, I've got. Well, let's see. There's the second in the Wizard of Oz series, The Marvelous Land of Oz, which I would like to do soon. And let's see, it was I've got Stuart Little is one that I'd like to do. What are we reading on Sunday? We are reading Coraline by Neil Gaiman. Hazmat, I have read them. I have not read them on live. We did Wrinkle in Time about 3 or 4 months back, and probably read a couple more of that series, but I have not done. I have to look at how long they are and see how they fit into the schedule. Cool. Well, 7 Mars, if you need more, you can always go check out, and I would suggest this to anybody, is to check out my YouTube channel. It's the same username. All of my lives are archived over there. Plus, I have some other long-form audiobooks that I've done of public domain stuff. So, and coming soon, I will be doing a YouTube exclusive event. That will only take place over there. So if you haven't followed me there, go follow me there. And just in case TikTok decides they don't like me anymore. So, but yeah, all of my the tube of you, yes, the tubes of you, they yeah, you never know what's gonna happen. The algorithm is so unstable. Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look. I gotta Alicia, I have not read either The Ocean at the End of the Lane or Graveyard Book, but I have heard very good things about them. What else? Yeah, there's quite a few. And then I know next week I will probably be back to a normal Wednesday, and found out today anyone couldn't call you on this app. Yeah, Hazmat, feel free. Well, thank you guys for all the likes and the gifts. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm excited to read it too. It's a book that I've been meaning to read. This is going to be another cold read for me. And yes, I will be doing more Goosebumps. We're getting into that season, so that's gonna be Jessica. Yeah. It's reminds me a lot of the movie Logan's Run, or Soylent Green. It's very much that dark dystopian thing where everything looks beautiful on the surface. Well, not so much in Soylent Green, but in like Logan's Run, everything seems beautiful on the surface, but just under the surface, when you scratch under the surface, things get really, really ugly very, very quick. Another one that's like that in some ways, The Time Machine. H.G. Wells he goes forward, really far forward in time, and finds this idyllic society where everything is provided and the people of just all they do is play and, things and eat and drink and be merry. But then come to find out that they are being harvested by the Morlocks that live underground, they're both branches of humanity. One evolved to be underground, and the other one evolved to be above ground. So yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. I love that book. That is one that I'd like to read, as well as 1984. Just have to kind of see how they fit into the schedule, because I don't usually read long form adult oriented stories. Mostly sort of save that for the family friendly stuff, but there are some books that are more they're not children's books that I would love to do. So yeah, I mean, Alicia, I would say this really would qualify as an adolescent book. I mean, and even the Hunger Games books are they are supposed to be young adult. So you and me both, Angeline, you and me both. Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm not one to take after, but I mean, you're talking about somebody who, as a kid, 12 years old, convinced his parents to take him to go see RoboCop. Yeah, I was reading Stephen King. I mean, yeah, my parents sat with me in the theater watching RoboCop. I'm pretty sure my mother was questioning her life choices. But I also went to go see that same year. I went to go see Platoon, which is another very much not, not for a 12-year-old to go see. But then again, it's like, I saw the original Poltergeist when I was, I'm trying to remember when that came out, but it was like, I was like 10. And that movie just scared the living hell out of me. That is one of the only that movie, Poltergeist, was one of the only movies that has ever legit given me nightmares. And honestly, to this day, that movie gives me nightmares. Really the only one. Yeah, it's rated R, so I mean, yeah, it's but yeah, my parents were odd about that kind of stuff. Anne of Green Gables. I'd have to look and see how long that is. It's because sometimes if they get to be too long, then they're just not. I can't read them. But stuff like that may become a possibility over on the Tubes channel, because I can post longer form stuff up there, do it as like a fully produced audiobook. Oh, TikTok, I don't care about your leaderboard challenges. I suppose I shouldn't say that out loud, but oh well. Yeah, I like to keep the books to under four sessions or less. So that way, because like what we did, like with this one, I just read it straight through straight through the whole week, and we did the same thing with the first with Wonderful Wizard of Oz back in May, where we had our Wizard of Oz event. That was the first time I had read a book straight through the whole week, the Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and that went well. And I think this was as much as TikTok has been not distributing my lives. I think this week still, I would consider it a success. So, And I really enjoyed it. And that's 99% of why I'm on here, is I enjoy reading these stories, whether it's I'm experiencing it for the first time or it's one that I've experienced before. And I'm getting to share it with you guys. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but they have, Alicia, they have buried, and I don't know that it's like, they picked creators to do it too, but yeah, my distribution was literally cut in half last month. Like June, I had the biggest month I've had all year. Had like almost $120 worth of gifts for the whole month. Had over 1 million likes for the whole month. It just really had, I gained probably 1,900 followers in like the span of like 3 weeks. And then in July, it just cut right off. And it's been like that ever since. Usually my distribution numbers were anywhere from 85 to 95% from the For You page. And now they're down to 70. Like I think one live I had recently was at 65%. It was just ridiculous. But things have been growing elsewhere, so that's good. And yeah, I mean, sharing, commenting, all of those things send signals to the algorithm, but I mean, I'm not overly concerned about it at this point. It was nice to have that big month, and I thought, if this continues, we could really grow, and getting to 21,000 followers was really cool, considering that, a year ago I was at 2,300. When I started doing this back in August of last year, I was at 2,300 followers. So going from 2,300 to 21,000 without going viral in less than a year is pretty impressive. So it's pretty impressive. But yeah, I mean, it's, they're just, we keep going. And because, part of the reason, the other part of the reason I'm here is just you guys. I mean, this community that we've built over the last year, and a community that just, you guys just come in, you listen to the story, we take care of each other, I wanted to build a community based on storytelling and kindness, and I've got that. And you guys helped me get there, and I will forever be grateful for that. I have gotten to know some wonderful people, and that continues to grow. Whether my follower numbers grow or not, it's good. Yes, Iris, I totally agree with you. Because like I said, I would like to do an exclusive live over there. I have some ideas. Awesome. It is cool to have big numbers. One the one Sunday night when I got almost 2,000 followers in one night. So in 2 hours, I pulled 2,000 followers. My peak concurrent viewers was almost 1,000 at one point. Huge numbers. It was great. It was amazing. It felt really good to know that I reached that many people, and that many people decided, hey, I want more of this. Alicia, no, that's the thing. It really, it doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason for it. Yeah. Tire Lady, I think, yes, I believe it was one of the Boxcar Children nights. Yeah, it's weird because it really doesn't make any sense as to what, doesn't seem like there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason as to what correlation. I mean, and the thing is like there's been some stuff where like it'll come up and suggest that I do certain things, and I've spent a year optimizing my live to be the best I can be, and the part of it is just like the visual. Why is my face so big on the screen? Well, it's because TikTok has a problem with still images. If I don't look like I'm moving, then it's they come out and say, well, we haven't seen any. I literally have gotten messages telling me that they're not going to distribute my live on the For You page because it's not eligible for recommendation because it looks like low quality content. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! You calling my face low quality, low quality content? Well, and Seven Mars, TikTok pushes gaming lives. Like there is, hey Trista, long time no see. On this end anyway. They'll run contests and stuff where play this game or play that game, and they do all that. But honestly, that's not me. That's not what I do. That's not why I came on here. I came on here to read stories to people. And I'm never one to chase trends. I just don't have any interest in it. They'll get messages saying, oh, this video is going viral. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. I just want to read stories, and show people my life. Because the thing is like when they distribute my live, I get a lot of people who follow, a lot of people that give gifts, which is great for me, but it's also good for the platform because they take a cut of that. When I gain more subscribers and I get more super fans, they get a cut of that. So it's, by not distributing my lives, I don't know what the reason is, but what the algorithm's reason is, but they're leaving money on the table. If they would distribute my lives again, there could be nights there would be nights where we could grow to the point where there would be nights where there was 1,000 or 1,500 people in here at one time, and the thing is when people come in, they stay, because I'm reading a story and they want to know what happens. But, I'm not going to pay to promote my live. I'm not going to happen. I'm just going to keep doing what I do. I'm going to keep, I tell stories for a living. That's what I do now because I can't seem to find another job. I worked in IT for 25 years and I haven't been able to find a job since I got laid off last year. It's crazy. The market is so saturated with IT people. And, I'm 51 years old. I walk with a cane. And everybody thinks, well, IT jobs, you go sit down and you're sitting for 24, for 9 hours a day. And that's not true at all. Most IT jobs now, especially at the support level, require you to be able to carry equipment and things like that. It is. Well, and really, and the thing is like, I've discussed this with a couple of people, and it's like, I walk with a cane because I have severe degenerative arthritis in both my knees. And so it's either I walk with a cane or I walk with a very pronounced limp and be in pain. And when I walk into an interview with a cane, walking with a cane, that immediately puts me at a disadvantage. They're not supposed to, but let's face it, if there's a candidate who has similar credentials, who's 15, 10, 15 years younger than me and doesn't walk with a cane, well, guess what? So I have had to, I'm continuing to look for work, but I've had to, really kind of freelance my way through, doing audiobooks, which I love to do, um, and, other various voiceover gigs that I'm trying to do. I've got other things in the fire that I'm hoping to work on. Growing my social media presence and I'm very close to being able to monetize over on the tubes, which would be great. Eventually I want to be able to take this on the road. Like, I want to go to small independent bookstores and do an in-person live, sell tickets, have a merch table, have a Q&A afterwards or a meet and greet, and be able to, people take podcasts on the road. Why can't I take Storytime on the road? I'm going to be traveling over to the UK next year to see my daughter, and I've already got her scoping out independent bookstores in Liverpool that might be willing to host a live show. I think that would be really cool. Well, and the other thing, Indigo, is that they can teach them. I'm gonna say it straight up. Working on computers is not hard. It is not a difficult job. 90% of working support is searching up an error on Google, because if the error is there, somebody wrote that software and put that error there. So it's, it's hard. It really is. And like I said, we've got so many people. There's so many people that got laid off in the last year, that the market is just saturated. So really, it's hard to make my resume stand out because I'm one of 1,000. Well, Indigo, I hope things turn around for you. I really do, because I know what it's like. Last year, it's not a lot in, my salary. I'll be straight up honest with you. My salary last year when I got laid off was $56,000 a year. Now, I have, I fully admit that I live in an area of the country where the cost of living is very low. But I was making it on that, just me and my daughter, and, we were doing fine. And now I'm on Medicaid because I don't have health insurance. I don't have a job. I applied for SNAP because I don't have an income. I don't have much of an income. And that's such a weird place to be. Like last year I was, lower middle class, but I was middle class, and now I'm living below the poverty line. And thankfully, through the grace and help of many generous people, including my parents and some friends, I've been able to, pay my mortgage and pay my bills and whatnot. But it's scary. So, now my focus is, yes, I'm going to continue to apply for jobs. They're all going to be remote jobs because going somewhere is a joke. But I am going to just freelance the hell out of this. I'm going to be doing story times and grow this more. I'm going to be doing more audiobooks. I'm going to be doing more side projects, as far as one thing I just started offering is a audiobook narration readiness edit, where I will go through and take somebody's manuscript and literally read it out loud, and mark down sentences that are clunky, punctuation that's missing, hard to tell which character is talking, things like that. Because as a narrator myself, I run into that stuff with nearly every book that I've done. There'll be, like somebody missed a word. And I see it, I think the author probably looked at their manuscript 100, 300 times and they didn't see it. But when I'm trying to read it out loud, the difference is I go to read the sentence and I'm just like, wait a minute, that sentence doesn't make any sense. Like you can't even finish it because it's read so, it reads so weird. And then you come to find out, you pointed out to the author and like, oh my God, I missed a word. And that's why it was a problem. And I was just going to offer it up at like a half a penny per word. An average manuscript that I've done is like 56,000 words. So you're talking a couple $100, but nothing crazy. I want it to be, because most of the people that would be doing that service, that would be buying it, are independent authors. So I don't want to rake them over the coals, but it's I think it would help. But yeah, I've got other ideas and things like that. I've had people. I got paid by somebody here on TikTok to actually read a poem that their husband wrote. I read the poem. She paid me to read the poem and make a video, and for his birthday. And it was a beautiful piece, and I read it through, and I got paid for it. I can't, I thought about doing custom voicemail answers, and also. One of the things that I wanted to start offering was memorial voiceovers. So somebody passes away, and they give me a thing to read, and they take that and use it for a voiceover for like a slideshow, and so that's something else that I think people might like to have. So it's and like I said, I have my catalog of stories right now that I have from various anthologies and the Project Gutenberg website and all that stuff. I have probably close to 1,600 stories. Oh, thank you, Jessica. I appreciate that. I try to, give a little bit without, especially on the multi-night books, to give a little bit of a recap, the story so far type thing. And with some of these books, there's usually a good lesson to be learned. And even as adults, we could use that sometime, I think. And, it's like, every live I end it the way I do with the kindness message, because it's important. As they say, kindness matters. Yeah, and then it's one of those things that it's I wouldn't mind doing it. But I also have a book that I'm actually writing myself that I read from a week ago that I would like to work more on. And I've got so many plates that I would like to spin that they're not even spinning at this point, but I would like to spin them. So it's all the thing. But I will say, if anybody's interested in supporting what I do here, becoming a super fan is probably the easiest way to do that. It is a monthly thing, and there are some things that I am cooking up for super fans that'll be exclusive for them. Probably some like pre-live show stuff and things like that. And then hopefully soon I'll be opening up my Discord server, and yeah, that'll be fun. There'll be some things I can do there that I can't do anywhere else. And then once I start to migrate over to the tubes, there's memberships over there as well. So because I'm loving this, and being able to come online and tell stories, and have people just have those moments of nostalgia and memory, and I've had people comment that they never had somebody read them stories before. And I've had people talk about how they, it brings them back memories of, a grandparent or a parent reading them who has since passed away. And I take that seriously. I take it seriously because, that matters. Memory, are you the giver? Maybe in another universe, a parallel universe, I am the giver. How did you know? Megan, yeah, it's I can see why people would return to it. I mean, that this has been the first time I read it. So the last 4 nights have been a cold read for me, but I can definitely see how people connect to it. Oh, little Levy, it's perfectly all right. If you would like to go back and listen to some of these stories, I am all of my lives are archived over on the tubes, and same username, so you can go back and listen to all 4 nights if you like. And then I've got a bunch of other stuff up there from when we did the House at Pooh Corner. Boxcar Children is up there, so yeah. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I'll be honest with you, Jessica. Like I said, it was a cold read for me, so I had no idea what I was getting into. But it was a really beautiful story. Yes, I mean, and Little Lovey, it was a wonderful book to read. But yeah, I have that. That's over on my Tubes channel. It's archived. It was a great piece to read. It was a great book to read. Yeah, it's Jessica. It's I mean, it's one of those dystopian novels. I think you could fall it into science fiction because it takes place in the future and things like that. But yeah, it's like there's this whole world that I don't know how if it comes up in the other books, why they ended up this way. What happened? Was there some catastrophe or some kind of nuclear war or something like that occurred? Does anybody have any? Because we got a little bit of time left. Does anybody have any questions for me? Or do you want me to just sit here and look pretty? Yeah, agreed. Yeah, Indigo, I think you're right. I do have one of my. Well, hello from Salem, Oregon. How are you? There is a local, well, used to be local. She now lives in Seattle. There's a local author who grew up in Buffalo and lived in Rochester for many years. Her name is Nancy Kress. And she wrote a short story that she won an award for. I believe it was the Hugo Award, but it's called Out of All Them Bright Stars. And I think I haven't convinced her yet. Indigo, yes, I am in Western New York. I live in Rochester. And I don't care what anybody says. I love this. I love this city. Mostly because I love garbage plates, but that's beside the point. Grew up in Buffalo. Yeah. 716. Yeah. We used to be 716. Now we're 585. Hey, Lorna, how are you? Yep. I have lived here since I was 5. I was born in, yeah, Indigo. That was crazy. That was I mean, just the confusion. And I remember what was funny was the how they had it so that you were like there was a bit of a crossover time. Oh, Lorna, it's okay. I'm sorry you're not doing well. I hope everything turns around for you, whatever it is. Um, yeah, when they split up 716 into 585, um, yeah, it's kind of wild. Ah, Ontario, Canada. I do love Ontario, Canada. And Lorna, I'm glad you did. Sincerely. Yeah, I'm actually, nope, not too far. About, well, it from Rochester, it takes about 4 hours to get to Toronto. Um, oh, the love is mutual. Oh, in Fairbanks, Alaska. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love Alaska is on my bucket list of places to go. Yeah, it's because there's a lake in the way. Well, we used to have that. We used to have the ferry. You remember the ferry? Oh God. Yeah, it's I'm actually so there was a bill passed in Canada where you can obtain or well they consider it restoring Canadian citizenship by descendancy. So you have to go through and yeah, we had a ferry for a while and it was an absolute disaster because it was mismanaged. Um, but where you can have your Canadian citizenship restored based on your ancestors. Well, my my father's my no my grandfather's mother uh, was French Canadian, and it was 2 generations prior to her that my great 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 grandfather was born in Canada, um, and he was born there well before uh, Canada actually had citizenship. But my ancestors go all the way back to 1660 ish, where they immigrated from Normandy in France to what is now modern day Montreal. And they were one of the first families to settle in that area. And my family lineage goes straight across Canada and then down into North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin. But that wasn't until mid 1800s. So I do have maple syrup in my veins. I've always loved Canada. It's a beautiful place. But I have, so I honestly, I would love to be able to, um, I don't remember that, Queen. But yeah, so there's a possibility that I could have my Canadian citizenship restored based on the law that was passed. No, it's all right. You're totally fine. So, because I honestly, I am proud of my French Canadian heritage, and I would love to have that back. Yeah. Well, there is that too. um, yeah, and I mean, not to get too deep into it. People talk about, oh, there's wait, you got to wait. I'm going, have you tried to get into a doctor here? Are you kidding me? Yeah. But and my youngest daughter lives in the UK, and she has nothing to complain about with the NHS. And if there's been a serious medical thing, she got seen right away. So I'm just the myth that people build around it is insane. So, but would I like to live in Canada? Yeah, absolutely. I would love to live in Canada. I think it's a great. I think it's a wonderful country. I actually wouldn't mind living in Toronto. I'm not a city person, but I wouldn't mind living in Toronto. I love Toronto. Yeah. Wow, double lung transplant. Holy crow. That's just the fact that you that you had it done is amazing. That had to be a wild recovery. It is a great city. I love going there, and I love going to Chinatown. Well, I look at it this way, you know, so we in this country take a lot of pride in um, the ideals put forth in the Declaration of Independence, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, life, if that's an unalienable right, then it kind of falls into the healthcare thing. Not to get political, but yeah, you know, and this it's the there to me, for-profit healthcare should be is immoral, and you know, it's crazy. It is crazy. Like I just transferred my. Oh, Jessica, that's wonderful. That is wonderful. I just transferred. So I because I am unemployed. I had to reapply for state health insurance, and I ended up on Medicaid. Well, the the mail order company that I've been getting my medication from, um, basically came back and said, "Well, we can't complete your order." And I'm like, "Why not?" You know. So I went and I made phone calls and got the runaround. It turns out they don't take my insurance anymore. Well, okay, you know. Um, so I had to go back and forth with the insurance company. I found out, and then so by this time I'm a month out. I've run out of most of my medications. The only one I had left, the only two that I had left were my heart medication and my one of my diabetes medications. Um, so I was out of my insulin. I was out of my metformin. I didn't have any of my mental health. It is complicated. It's overly complicated, and I can tell you that sometimes it feels like it's complicated on purpose. You know, um, but it's I didn't. I was anybody that's been here with me for the last month or so, I'm sure has noticed that I've been a little out of sorts and I've been a little testy and you know, not been myself. Um, Even though I tried to keep it straight, you know. But I went back and forth with them, and then I finally was able to get them to move my prescriptions over to another pharmacy. And I went in yesterday to pick everything up. And come to find out, now like I said, I'm a diabetic. I am I was without my medication for a month and a half. My blood sugar was out of control. And so I'm like, I cannot wait to get this back. And what ended up happening, they said that Now, mind you, they, this is wonderful. This is, yeah, I've seen that happen too, Indigo. I've absolutely seen that happen. It's just insane. Now, I've been on insulin for 10 years, and they literally kicked back the prescription and said that they needed prior authorization. Prior authorization for a medication that I've been taking for the last 10 years. So I ended up having to wait an extra day for it. It was just unbelievable. Jessica, yeah, that is absolutely true. And so I have an eating disorder, and what happens is my blood sugar gets out of control. I can't control my mental health, which affects my eating disorder, and I can't control that, so it ends up raising my blood sugar, and there's just this vicious cycle. And trying to break it has been a challenge, you know. And it's yeah, it's just nuts. It is just nuts. But I got back on my medication. I took yesterday was the first day. No, yeah, yesterday was the first day I had taken a full course of it. Yeah, exactly. This was the first day I'd taken a full course of my medication since I've been off of it for a month and a half. And I'm feeling it. Yesterday I was exhausted, just from the meds being in my system again. And then today, oh boy, my stomach was not happy with me. And it's because of the medication. You know, I didn't wean myself back onto it. I just started taking them full dose again. And yeah, but we've got it all straightened out now. And Medicaid is covering my medications. It's on the program that it is called New York NYRX. So there's a network of pharmacies that you can get that stuff from. And the nice thing about that is that they have this. It's basically a mandate that says if you can't buy your medication, you can still get it. They'll still give it to you. But right now there's no copay with my meds. But eventually I would like to work back up to the non-Medicaid New York. It's called the New York Essential Plan. You know, I mean, my kids were on Child Health Plus for a while. Rocks, I don't know, to be honest with you. No, I've got plenty of metformin. I got a giant bottle of it. They gave me a 3-month supply, so I appreciate that. But I'm good. Yeah. But boy, oh man, my stomach suffered today. Yeah, it suffered, but that's okay. That is okay. Alrighty then. But yeah, so I gotta find a new job and get new health insurance, and it sucks. That's the other thing that sucks about this is that your health insurance is tied to your job. You know, and when you try to get health insurance outside of a job, it's expensive. It is very expensive. Yeah. You work for Aetna? Yeah. It's I can't say enough that my sister worked for 2 different health insurance companies, and she works in the healthcare field. Yeah. Yep. That's one of the reasons you go outside of when you go outside of the United States, you go to Canada and, well, good evening, morning. I love doing that. UK and whatnot. There's a higher success rate in the entrepreneurial space because they don't have to worry about the cost of paying their employees health care. I mean, obviously you can make the argument that it's taxes and all that stuff, but when you don't have to, when that is among your biggest expenses as an employer, it's hard down here. It's hard to afford to employ anybody when you're a small business. So, and it's the small businesses in like Canada and the UK. It's yes, Jessica, I am as well. I think it's it goes back to that whole life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You need to be able to live in order to pursue happiness. I mean, with as much money as floating around this country, that is certainly something that I know there's some cities that have actually experimented with it, but yeah. Well, you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. That's great. What happens when you can't afford boots? I think, Jessica, yeah. I mean, and one of the things that I think would work towards that is Medicare for all. I think that is, not having to worry so much about the cost of healthcare is a big deal, and it would make a huge difference. But, that's I don't know. But anyway, get away from political issues. It's not. I don't generally do that here, but it's okay to do once in a while. Well, I am going to call it a night. I am beat, and it has been a pleasure to spend the last 4 nights reading The Giver with you all. Well, I mean, Jessica, I think of this, something like that. I think of as, it's not a political issue. It's a morality issue. I mean, it's basic human rights shouldn't be political, and that's where I'll end that discussion. Rocks, all of my lives are available, are archived over on the tubes. Same username. And you can go back and all the last 4 nights of The Giver will be right there. And you can go back and watch them. Just a reminder to everybody, my lives are Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They'll start at 9 p.m. Eastern and to 11 p.m. or a little later, depending on how we go. Yes, 92,000. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you. Oh, you're very welcome. So, and then, like I said, Sunday we'll be starting Coraline, and I have a whole new adventure. Well, I will probably be posting tomorrow. I'll probably be posting an excerpt from the beginning, and yeah. So, yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you all very much. And until Sunday, please be kind to each other and be kind to yourself, because kindness matters. And so do you. Good night, everybody.